And as we look into recruiting and finding those athletes as you begin to create your own culture, as you begin to really, establish your roots in the Drexel program and what you're trying to build for
Mhm.
long-term success, you obviously have at your disposal a very large growing population in the high school community in Philadelphia. But then obviously, I'm sure with Drexel, you are seeking athletes who are in other areas of the country and so on and so forth to
Mhm.
build this class. Like, talk to me a little bit about your, because you said that this was a primary focus for you as you enter your second season. Like, talk to me a little bit about
Mhm.
the recruiting process for you as coaches. What does that look like for you guys? What does it look like to bring in a class of 14 athletes, whatever you mentioned
Mhm.
prior? Where does that begin? What does that look like? And maybe shed some light on that process as you enter this second fall season.
Mhm. Absolutely. I mean, I think it goes back to what I was saying a little bit earlier of my primary passion is to learn, right? And I want to learn from people. So a lot of my recruiting starts, talking to junior coaches and talking to, friends that I have at that level of, who's doing a good job. And it starts with a very simple conversation. To me, I could certainly go on resources like NCSA, right? And I can go put in my parameters of what I'm looking for. But the ones that really mean more to me, and the ones that are a little bit more personal, are the coach's recommendations that I can receive, right? So it comes down to, if I can have a conversation with a coach, right? If I call him up and say, hey, Joe Schmo, right? How are things going? Congrats on, whatever that past season was, or maybe it's after, a fall race or whatever it is. But, talking to him about what they're focusing in on the team, my question is, who do you have that's doing a good job? It's not who do I think would fit us. I just want to know who's doing a good job, right? And I want to hear how the coach talks about their experience with the athlete, right? Certainly there's some where, I'll go and I'll have names that I'll kind of run by and just say, hey, I found this person, or, you had mentioned this person before. And I want to wait to hear what their experience is. Sometimes they fall off the wagon. Sometimes, they've already committed other places, but it really starts for me at the very basic level of who's doing a good job. And from there, I'll hear the coach. They'll tell me kind of what I need to know about them as a person. And then I have an idea of, how I want to approach that conversation. So if it starts with that conversation, say the coach recommends, these three athletes, I get their names, I'm more of a texter per se, just by on my preferred medium. But I'll reach out and I'll say, hey, I hear blank, blank, blank that, you're doing a great job. I'd love to jump on the phone and learn more. Let me know when a good time to call is. Because I want to be able to show the recruit that I'm the one interested, right? I don't want to say and like leave it very open-ended and just say, do you want to get on a call? I'm pretty direct in my communication. Let me know when a good time to call is. I leave the ball in their court. I think when that type of relationship starts and I can be pretty direct up front, there's not really any room for error, right? I'm not trying to sift through all the noise and trying to do that. Like, great, I want to be able to get them on the phone so I can have as close to a genuine conversation as I can. I think things can get lost in emails and things can get lost in text. You learn a lot more about people through a conversation. You can hear, their tones, their underlying emotions, if they get really excited about things, asking recruits about what moments or experiences they're most proud of and seeing where they take the conversation. I really enjoy that aspect of recruiting because, yeah, at the end of the day, all of us college coaches, we're all going to go after the top kids, right? We're all going to go after the fastest ergs that we think could, influence our program. But what I need to do as a coach is find the athletes that I want to work with that I think I can support. Right. And I think as the recruit on the other side, right, my advice to them is, yeah, you're going to talk to a bunch of coaches, right? And we're all going to be able to offer you coaching in a boat, but it's going to come down to who do you feel like can help you achieve your goals for your college career. So coming back to it again, it starts with a simple conversation. Who's doing a good job? As a recruit, I would hope that people are paying attention to how do you exist in a conversation, right? And from there, it can then grow, right? We'll continue to track calls, and both my staff and I will continue to follow up with coaches. We'll continue to follow up with athletes. But I think that very basic question really opens the door for further conversation. So who's doing a good job?
Yeah, no, I like that. And my follow up to that, you kind of alluded to it to a degree, but my a follow up to that is like you reference, okay, like you are able to use, or, leverage the relationships that you've been able to develop in your long time as,
Mm-hmm.
being in this space, being in the wrong world. Um, what would you say for the athletes who maybe are, aren't part of a program that you have that direct connection with? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what would be their way to maybe wiggle their way through into
Mm-hmm.
the the inbox of Coach Lane, as you right, like, what would
Mm-hmm.
that process look like for them? What would your advice be? You referenced, the recruiting profiles, but also,
Mm-hmm.
probably direct contact with you. Like, talk about that, where it's like the athlete who maybe is doesn't have that direct tie to a
Mm-hmm.
connection that you have from, coaching connection. How can they make themselves known to you as kind of that first step in the recruiting process?
I think it's important for an athlete to stick to what feels natural to them, right? So if their preferred medium is texting, right? Certainly my number's all over the place. Not that I receive a lot of cold texts, but I think that that's one way. But if you're somebody who is more of a visual person, I think how people are starting to use Instagram and using social media to highlight different things, right? I was looking at Instagram yesterday, and there was somebody that had posted of, um, oh, look at this, like my second PR, right? And it was somebody that had just posted something or like just created their account, right? That caught my eye. So if that's something that's a visual, right, that's not that recruit, putting that in an email of like, hey, I just PR'd for on my second 2K that I ever did. That's something that I saw in an image on Instagram. So I think that that's one way. If you're somebody that is more, say, organized, right? I think resources like NCSA, and I think that that's pretty much the main one that still exists right now because everybody else is merged. But I think to be able to exist in a space like that, where hey, you're putting your name out there, so yeah, if it came to be that I was looking at race results, I could cross check that. I find your profile. I think that that's another way. But I think at the very end of the day, if somebody fills out a recruiting questionnaire, certainly I have access to it. My staff gets access to it. And we can go from there because we get a ding in our inbox whenever we get a questionnaire in. So I think for recruits out there that, may not have that same connection where I can call up their coach, right? Because while I like to think I know a lot of coaches, I certainly don't know everybody. And I don't think anybody really does. I think for recruits to go on and just find the prospective athlete questionnaires and be truthful in how you fill it out, right? When there's a question asked there of like, why do you want to row for this school? Be truthful about it. Anybody can say like, oh, I want a competitive team, but I think the ones that stand out to me are the ones that can give me a little bit more information to show that you are invested in the school. I think for Drexel, it's easy because it's like, I'm really attracted to the co-op opportunity. I think finding out how you want to exist. Social media is not for everybody. I think that's been a great resource. I think using things like NCSA, that's a great resource. It doesn't have to be for everybody, but I think either sending emails, all coaches' emails and coaches' contacts are online, or filling out prospective athlete questionnaires. I think those are probably the main ways to start to feed into that relationship.